Hi.
Nicole,
Hi, John.
hey, how are you?
Oh, good. I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's like
Awesome.
we're like meeting on chat more often than we did in real life in a way, no?
It's kind of crazy how our world has changed.
It's changed a lot, right?
Yeah,
From all this pandemic situation. It's
I know.
crazy.
I know. I mean, I moved in this situation, so I completely get it.
That's right. You were moving while it was happening, right?
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah, based on the situation, we just kept watching the news, and I knew that I was going to have to make a decision soon about whether to either stay in Japan or come back. And so I planned my move in 4 days. The movers came, packed me up, and I booked my flight and I left. So it was really hectic and crazy
wow.
that it was, yeah, and this virus, it's crazy. Yeah.
And did you have to have like a what was it like a 15-day quarantine or something? You couldn't see anybody or
Yep. So
wow.
for 2 weeks, I was by myself, and the company was really nice. They rented me a corporate apartment, so I was able to like have my own space. But still, it's like nothing's yours. You're living out of suitcases. I didn't have any groceries. I didn't have anything. So
Wow.
a little bit of a panic. But yeah, I mean, overall, like it was okay. It's just moving is already stressful, and then this on top of it. But it's
Right.
okay. We're here. It's good.
And how's it feel to be back in San Diego?
It feels really different, to be honest. San Diego feels amazing. I missed California, but leaving a big city like Tokyo that's so dynamic and just alive, and then you come to San Diego, it's a different pace, a different lifestyle. So
Right.
it feels wonderful to be back and to take over working at now Nissan Design America, which is going
Yeah.
to be great. But I learned so much from being in Japan and managing like a Japanese team, so that was really cool.
And when did you go to Japan, actually? When did you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So after we were working on the Motion 2.0, the concept car for Detroit, that
Right.
was well, that was about 4 years ago now. Um, I was in Japan. They moved me to Japan on a foreign assignment for 3 years. So I just finished my 3 years. The timing went by so quick. So that was great, but it was such a good experience. And it's the first time that we've kind of ever moved like color designers around, which is interesting. So there was one
Right.
before me, which was Francois.
Yeah.
Um, but then, so it was really, it was such a good experience for me to like be there, experience the culture, have a Japanese team, work on more global projects. So it was great.
Well, the one of the reasons why I wanted to really do this interview, especially in regards about color and materials, is because when I joined NDA, I remember my first job project was an interior project.
Yeah,
And I realized the importance of color and materials and how it actually can transform a design completely. And working on the VMotion 2.0 with you was a great experience because it was like the first time for me to see copper. The
right.
idea of using copper in the
Yeah.
car as an accent material. And actually, it really turned out really, really good. And I think we won some awards, right, in Detroit,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, we did. We won some awards. So I love the fact that you're bringing up the relationship between color, because I think sometimes people forget about color design in automotive design. We often think about exterior designers and interior designers, but color is also really important, and people have really strong reactions to colors. So we think about the emotional part of that. So what was so fun about V-Motion was that, I really felt passionate about using copper because I saw it as a trend that was coming in interior home and appliances and even in
Right.
fashion and jewelry. So I knew copper was coming in a way, but sometimes for automotive, it can't be so literal because we design cars so far in advance that we need to figure out what people will want so that the trend has longevity. So it's my job to take all of those trends. And so when we did that car, I knew that it would be a hard sell sometimes, and it was. It was challenging. It
It
wasn't easy
was.
to get everybody on board with copper, but it's beautiful. And I think back then people thought it was a little bit feminine, but now people are not like putting it in their kitchens. So it's one of those things that changes, and it was very challenging car, but it was the first time for me as a color designer, I was really able to like show my taste and
Right.
like show the company what I could do.
Right,
Yeah, it
right.
was
No,
great.
that was a fun project for sure. And I
That
remember
was
the
great.
wood floor. Remember the wood floor? It was
Yeah,
real wood. It
yeah,
wasn't veneer. It
yeah,
was actual real wood that was formed by Fiero, the company that did our show car, and they did a fantastic job.
yeah. They did.
And then the materials all worked out together. I think one of the most important things is be able to have all the materials relate to each other, right? So you don't have one material, color, or texture overcoming the other, but just finding the right balance. And I like to go back and like ask you the question: how did you got into color design or automotive color design? Take us way back when you were.
Okay, whoa, we're going way back. Okay, this is great.
Maybe tell us where you're from. Tell us where you
Sure.
grew up and everything. I think that's quite interesting as well for our
Okay.
followers.
Yeah, sure. Okay, oh my gosh. So I grew up in a really small town called Clarkston, Michigan. Really small, very kind of like tight community. I was raised by, my tight knit family and kind of the community, I would say. And then I just kind of always had this dream of like moving out of the city, but I didn't know what that meant. I started at a young age really drawing clothing, and my mom taught me how to sew. So I
Mm,
started really being very creative and then like in the and very passionate about that. And then when I was younger, I was kind of entering middle school. And one of the things that I had as a struggle is that I was diagnosed with a reading disability. So I was actually like flipping. I was dyslexic for a while.
oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, not a lot of people actually know that about me. So it really pushed me to use like my artistic ability, creating, to kind of get through that, to get the confidence, to be able to kind of work through some of those things. And so from that, I decided to go to college and go for fashion design. So
Fashion.
I started designing clothing, and I would just sit and sketch, and I would sew my own stuff. And then when I graduated, I thought, I live in Michigan. What am I going to do with this? So then I decided that I was going to try an internship in automotive color materials. And that's really, I started working for Johnson Controls in Plymouth, Michigan. And that's where my love for color materials and automotive really flourished. And I thought it's so cool because we're in the Motor City, and it felt right. It felt like part of my roots, and I loved it. And also,
Mm.
there wasn't a lot of women in the industry. And I knew at that time that we kind of needed to have a voice and that there was an opportunity. So it was so cool. I traveled all over the world for my job at the time and just kind of researching trends, and then moving to China for a stint there, and then now Japan. So it's been a really great career.
And what brought you to NDA? Because
Uh, that's a really great question.
because I remember the first day you came to the studio, and
Yeah.
I think you're wearing leopard leotards or something like that. As a, do you remember that? Because
Okay, I definitely didn't wear a leopard leotard. I would never wear that to work.
I
Okay,
think you
what
were.
else? Okay, it was a
But
leopard
you were
dress.
very colorful. That's for sure. When you came in the studio, you had like pink tennis shoes and
Yeah,
bright,
yeah,
bright colors. You would like really like glow the hallway when you're like
yeah.
walking down the studio hallway, and it's like,
Oh
oh,
my
Nicole's
gosh.
here.
I see
Nicole's in the
Daniel.
house.
I see Daniel just commented. He laughs a lot. Okay, it wasn't a leopard skin or anything. It was a leopard dress, and yes, I think that
Yes, the leopard dress. That's right.
yes, I use fashion to really express who I am, and also like it helps me be positive in the morning, and just what I want to be, what I want to achieve that day. Like I dress when I get dressed. It's like it's an art for me. It's how do I feel
Mm.
today? What do I want to wear? And yeah, I try to mix pieces. So I wear a lot of dresses with tennis shoes. I get a lot of inspiration from fashion. Many little details I try to apply in automotive.
When I went back to San Diego from Japan, in Japan, the men wear scarves, and
Yeah,
they're not afraid to wear pastel colors and
right,
like this because they're very fashion trendy over there in Tokyo. And when
right.
I was wearing that kind of attire at
Yeah,
NDA, I would get like, really,
yeah,
scarf?
yeah,
And then all
right,
of a sudden you start seeing trends, like some people are wearing scarves and
right. It's
stuff.
true. Yeah,
But the funny thing is that when you go from one country and you pick up the trends and the style, and then you adapt to it, you use it for your own fashion, your own story, and then you go to a different country and you notice the difference in
yeah,
colors and fashion.
yeah.
And so,
You
what did you
do.
see the difference when you went from, say, from China to U.S. and into Japan and back to U.S.? What are some of the differences you see in the color and material trends?
Oh, that's really great. So, there's kind of two things. There's fashion trends and then there's automotive trends. So I can kind of simply maybe give you but in general, my experience from Japan is people are far more modest. They're more covered, but the colors they like are more soothing because there's smaller spaces and they kind of keep them calm. So there's like psychological reasons why people choose different colors and countries gravitate to certain colors. And then obviously in China, they're a little bit more bold, just like they
Mm,
are in their cars. They tend to like aftermarket, soup up their cars. They want their car to be customizable, very similar to like fashion. They take more bold choices, I would say, compared to the US. So there's definitely like body colors that sell different for each region. So what we do as color designers is really study what areas, what are the selling points for these areas, and what kind of the needs and wants, so we give the right colors for each region.
yeah, and I noticed that when coming to Brazil, that the colors here are very different, say, in the U.S. and even in
Right,
Japan. Like
right,
even here, the colors I wear are really bright when I started to work here. And
right,
here, there's a lot of desaturated colors in which I wasn't used to. And like when I would work with our color designer, and she proposed like some desaturated colors, and I would like, I must not see things, as a Brazilian would see. And I
right,
started to understand that Brazilians are very conservative in their colors, especially in the cars. It's
right,
like white, black, and silver are the three basic colors that we sell mostly here in Brazil. Anything bright, they try to stay away from. But for example, you go to Mexico, I see some bright green cars driving around when I'm in Mexico. So there are
right.
some differences here also in Latin countries. So you said that Japan and China are different because Japan seems to be more modest and China tend to be more bold. How do you think about the U.S. colors? Have you seen the trends sort of going in a bold direction, or do you see it going into a modest direction? What do you see?
It's a really interesting question. Currently, we are seeing more vivid colors, more unique kind of body colors moving forward. But the biggest question for me right now as a color designer is what's going to happen after COVID? Like, are people going to view colors differently and driving differently? So I think we're in a really unique, yeah, we're in a unique space because I think that's actually going to change. So it's interesting because I do feel like people like bolder colors, more vivid when the economy is great and things are doing good. But then when things tend to turn and potentially a recession, and you mentioned those things, and then the colors kind of change so that they become more white, black, and gray. So maybe we
Right.
see basic colors getting higher sales for those very reasons.